Hi, Misha.
Hi. Hi. You know what? I misspelled your name. I don't want to mispronounce your name. If you can let everybody know your name.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Arica Smith. I go by Ari Smith. I have been in the tech space for 10 years. Currently, I'm an engineering manager at HPE on the Aruba side. And yeah, it's been a good but rough 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Miss Smith. Thank you for joining us. Miss Smith is an IT network engineer. She's been so for the last 10 years. She calls herself the YLAN queen on her LinkedIn profile.
WLAN,
Okay. Um,
Wi-Fi.
she's worked at AT&T, Microsoft, and Bongo. But Bongo, is that it?
Boingo Wireless.
Boingo Wireless. Okay, I've heard of it. I didn't know how to pronounce it. But it's currently at HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, old
Mhm.
school tech. And
Yeah.
it's located in New York City.
Mhm.
She is a Chicago native, Chi-Town, Windy City, like myself,
Hey,
South
Southside.
Side. All right. So yeah, I wanted to have her on because I don't even know how we became Facebook friends. I don't think we've met in person, like officially.
They were mutual friends. They were like, you gotta talk to Misha. She's a black lady in tech too. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that's probably it. So um like I really love her Facebook statuses and I really wanted to have a conversation with her. Just seeing her journey, probably I think we've been connected for over the past 5 years. So she was living in Chicago, got some Airbnbs, was Ubering on the weekend as an engineer, guys, not playing games,
Yeah.
paying off debt, paying off credit cards, sold that Airbnb property, flipped it, made a profit, moved to Harlem, New York. You purchased a property in Harlem, New York, right?
No, we're renting.
Oh,
So
renting.
we're mortgage free.
Okay, mortgage free in
Yes.
Harlem, New York. Still Airbnb and renting out your place for movie sets, right?
So yeah, we still are. It's still a
Mhm.
little limited during the pandemic, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, if you could, first of all, tell us a little bit about your career because you don't have a traditional. Uh, well, no, let's go back. Sorry, let's go back. Let's
Yeah,
tell us about your
that's
up.
traditional.
Let's talk about your upbringing. You are mixed,
Yeah. So
up there, and childhood in Chicago, things like that.
yeah, so I identify as Blasian. My dad is African American. My mom is Korean. Came straight from South Korea here, so she immigrated here when she married my dad. So I grew up in Chicago, Chicagoland, including the suburbs. But I moved around a lot as a kid. I started school in Canada, in London, Ontario, for 4 years. A lot of people don't know that I lived in Canada for 4 years as a kid. Then came back to the US. As an adult, I've lived in LA and Seattle uh, and New York for a time. So I was in New York previously, and now I'm back in New York.
Okay, awesome, cool, cool. And tell us about your educational background and how you got into tech because you don't have the traditional story about how to get into tech. I'm actually going to make your picture bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So most people that get into engineering or network engineering have a bachelor's in computer science, and I didn't. How I landed into tech was really random. I had about a year into a master's of education program. I'd already had my bachelor's in communications, radio, TV, and film, completely different. But I was working in sales at AT&T, making 35K a year with all this education, and I was frustrated. I was like, there's got to be more than this 35K a year sales job. So I kind of just sat at home one day staring at this little white Netgear router, and I was like, oh, Wi-Fi is so magic. You just magically connect to the internet. What does somebody have to do to get a job in Wi-Fi? So I Googled stuff at the time and came upon network engineering. And I was like, okay, what do you got to do to be a network engineer? Then I found, oh, Cisco certifications. Okay, how do I get that? And I ended up in a boot camp. I
Mhm.
did completely remote training for the Cisco boot camp. I think it was about 6 months of work, not knowing anything previous, no coding, no nothing. End up getting 3 Cisco certifications, routing and switching, wireless and security. And 6 months later, I landed a job. And that's kind of how I hacked into IT without going back to formal schooling. Because I had student loans. I had $70,000 in student loans. I was not going back.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. And then how much did that certification cost?
Yeah, so the exams were $250 each, but that entire program, I think I definitely think I paid less than $3,000 or $5,000 total for that entire program. So that's really cheap.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Cheap. And you're making like engineer salary, so that's really good. Okay, awesome. So how did you go about getting your first job then? What did that look like? You're working at AT&T sales. You got these certifications. Like, I need to make more than 35. Like, how do you get your first job?
So this was a really dramatic turning point when I career changed, because it was like a dramatic point in my life. I left Chicago and moved to Orange County. So that's like LA. And that training program, I decided to intern for them for 3 months, right? And in exchange, they would have, covered my certification training. So that's how I got some of the additional certs. But they paid for housing, and it was like a $250 a month stipend. I don't know how I lived off that, because that barely covered food. Right. But it was really rough because I literally had to leave everything I've known in Chicago to go to a place that I had never been. And it was tough. I had like $300 in my bank account in my life and 2 suitcases. Yeah, it was really tough. But I stuck it out. It was like these big it was like 2 houses next to each other in Orange County. And it's like 20-year-olds like me. It's like real world tech. It was like 10 of us in like the same house working for this company. Everybody was hogging up the Wi-Fi. It was insane. But through that, once I finished my internship, I landed a job within 6 months for what was it? I think the company is called TechNewSource. So I was on a project installing Wi-Fi, literally Wi-Fi points in Hilton hotels all over the nation.
No, that's awesome. And like, you're in your 20s, you don't have a lot turning you down. Like, it's good to make that gamble on yourself. Cause like you're working at AT&T, you're going to get 50-cent raises every year, instead of like making a jump and making that large income jump. So let's talk numbers. That first job, what did that salary look like?
I love talking about this specific job. I got paid $50K, and this was back in 2010.
That's good.
Which I thought it was. And I did that job 8 months. So I learned very quickly, and I was only one of maybe 8 or 10 engineers that had Cisco certifications. Only one other engineer had one, and he made $85,000 a year. And I had more certifications than him, but then of course I lacked experience. So after 3 months and 6 months, the company had promised me raises and promotions, and I never got them. And I asked for them. So 6 months came around, and I was talking with my manager. I'm like, hey, I've been doing great. I've been knocking out projects ahead of time. Customers have really said I've worked well. Where's my money? And they kept, saying, oh, well, it's coming later. And it got to a point where I was fed up, and I knew they were playing me. So around the 6 month mark, that's when I started looking and applying for jobs. And what really was the straw that broke the camel's back is after 6 months, they had me training engineers. And there was a brand new engineer that came in, and he was making $75K, and I was training him. I was like, how disrespectful can you be? I was mad.
Do you feel like it was because you were a woman or a woman of color? Like what, how do you woman? Okay.
I think it was both. I was the only woman engineer on the team, and I was a woman of color. My manager was white. The director was white. And I was obviously the youngest one on the team as well. So they're just looking at me like, oh, like I'm some kid, like I know nothing. But
they think you know, take what you can give you. But let's still look at these numbers. And I know that that happens a lot in tech. I've experienced that. I understand that. But still, you came from a point of making 30, 35 to now making 60, right?
50, which was a big jump for me. I was excited at first. I thought I was getting paid good.
Right. That's still a $20,000 jump in 1 year. Okay. Yeah. So let's finish that story. But so yeah, they definitely could have been paying you more, because what starting out is definitely should be around 70, 75 in the San Francisco area. But you still were able to make a $20,000 jump, you know, within a year. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. Now you leave this job because you're like, they're not respecting me here. What do you do next?
Yeah, so that's when I landed the position as a network engineer at Boingo Wireless. And at the time, it was a cool startup that had Wi-Fi in like airports and stadiums and stuff like that. And that's where I really grew my technical expertise in different vendors and got more certifications and got just more broad experience with engineering, procurement of circuits and all types of stuff. So that's where I really grew and flourished as an engineer. And that bump was 65K. So that was a good bump there too.
Okay, awesome. Another 15. So, okay. And we're getting experience. And within a year, we have jumped 15, and then we've jumped 20. So we've jumped, my math is horrible, 35 in less than 2 years. Okay, awesome. What is the debt looking like? Are we able to pay debt at this time, or are we just working on like increasing our income? Like what's going on at this time?
Yeah, at this time, I'm paying off debt because I think with the first year that I was working in IT, I think I had like my student loans on like some type of like I was unemployed and it was some type of forbearance. But then I forgot about it, and I don't know if they went into default, but they did something to where my entire tax return got taken and I didn't know. And I was mad, and I never let that happen again. So I paid them their money.
I heard that. Yeah.
They will come after you. It's true.
Right. I heard that. Okay. So this job, how long did we stay here? And then what was the next point?
I stayed at Boingo for 2 years and I was so happy there. But the turning point was I was on LinkedIn just casually. And one day I get a message from a recruiter talking about an engineering position at Microsoft. And I was like, is this a joke? Like this, I've only been in tech like, I think at the time 3 years. I was like, this has to be a joke. So I'm looking up her name and making sure like, oh, she works at Microsoft. And she happened to be a Black woman as well. So, but I think I'm not qualified for it. You know, I already I already like, put myself in that losing position. I'm like, it's Microsoft. But my husband at the time said, the worst they can say is no, like you should apply. And I was like, you're right. The worst they can say is no. So I went ahead and applied, and it was a grueling process of 9 interviews. And I beat out people with like 15 years of experience over me. And that was the point where I jumped into 6 figures. That first year was 105. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you said you were making 60 the year before?
65. Yeah.
65. Y'all, I know it's terrible. I'm an engineer, but I'm horrible at math in my head. So she goes from 65
to 105. So that's a 50K jump.
Okay. Yeah. So 50K jump. So, and that you stayed 2 years there. So within the span of 4 years, you were able to increase your income over $70,000.
Yeah.
In 4 years.
Yeah.
What other career has that type of growth, guys? I saw some people in the group like no shade or whatever. Like there are ways you can do it, but I see some people working in finance and they're making that after like 7 or 8 or 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in finance, they're like working you to death. What are your hours like with network engineering?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the company and the role that you're in. If you're in more like IT support, you may be more off hours and on call, even evenings and weekends. But if you're more in like an engineering architecture type of role, and those are more senior roles, depending on the company, you'll pretty much work 9 to 5.
Yeah. I just wanted to emphasize that a lot of, first of all, you don't have to code to go into tech. People think you have to code. You don't have to code. You don't ever have to learn to code. And a lot of jobs in tech are traditional hours, 9 to 5. A lot of jobs in finance or lawyer or doctor, you're working like insane hours. And we need all of those things. I'm not saying don't pursue those things, but if life work balance is really important to you, I think tech is a really good option. Really good option. Okay, Microsoft. So we're making six-figure club before 30, right?
And I was buying Coach purses on regular price, okay?
Where were you living at this time?
Huh?
Where were you living at this time?
So I had to relocate to Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
So that was another move. And at this time, I'm used to moving. My husband at the time had never lived anywhere else.
Okay.
But he was down. So I was like, cool, let's make this money.
Yeah. And Seattle's a pretty cool place. Didn't you like Seattle, or how was it?
Heck no, I didn't like Seattle.
That's so funny.
So this is the thing, and I have friends in Seattle that are from Chicago too. So shout out to Seattle. The culture and the vibe of Seattle just didn't click with my personality because I'm a city girl. I'm very straightforward. I tell it how it is. The culture in Seattle is very like passive aggressive. It's kind of different, and there's definitely racial tensions there, but it's so like semi subtle. Like it's so strange. I'd never experienced racism in that type of way before until I moved to Seattle. It was really strange.
I get it. Okay, that makes sense. I've only been there to eat. And
food, yeah.
The freshest food, the freshest fish, the freshest seafood I ever had in my life. I've like landed there and I had a salmon sandwich. Sandwich. Like I'm like, oh my God, this is the best salmon I've ever tasted in my life. They're like, we just had it this morning. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. So, okay, it seemed like I have a cool vibe, but I didn't get to experience the people. And I understand what you're saying. Like, definitely some people, like, they're liberal, but they're really racist. But so they're passive aggressive racist.
Yeah, it's really strange, but Seattle is a major city. So where do you find Black folks in most major cities? The South Side. And sure enough, the South Side of Seattle does have a Black community, and also the South suburb of Renton is mostly Black as well. So you will definitely find us. But in other areas, it's almost like finding Where's Waldo. Like there were so little Black folks. Like every time I saw one, I got excited. Like I'd never really experienced that before. It was crazy.
My best friend lives out there. She says that when she is outside walking her baby, people assume that her husband is white because she must not have a Black husband.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange. Their preconceived notions of, especially Black folks. It's so strange to me.
Okay, interesting. So Seattle, Microsoft, like Microsoft is a coveted company that a lot of people want to work for, and I hear they treat people well, things like that. So, how was your experience there? How long did you stay there?
Yeah, I stayed there for 2.5 years. Wanted to stay longer, but life put me in a different direction. I loved my tenure at Microsoft. I had amazing teams I worked with, really great managers for the most part. And it was really a place where they allowed me to thrive and really hear me out in my engineering ideas and put things into motion and get awards for good work and recognition. Like it's really a great place to work. It really is. The interesting thing, going back to pay, and this is going to be a recurring thing. It's not just me. It's literally in women in tech, period. You cannot hear enough about this. Even Microsoft. When I got in, I started at 105, right? I had a female engineer, I think a year and a half in. She came from Cisco. She was way more genius than me. It was like I was the Wi-Fi queen, she was the wired queen, like legit. And we made about the same amount of money. And there was a class action lawsuit that came out. I think it was like maybe 2015 or something like that, where women spoke up about being at the exact same role and the differences in pay just from conversation. So the class action lawsuit, we won. And as soon as we won it, my pay jumped 20K.
Oh my gosh.
That's how less women were making the exact same roles as men. And I remember when I got the pay increase, I was happy, but I was like bitter angry. Like I would look at my male colleagues like,
like,
you didn't know this.
Like, do we get back pay, y'all?
Like, how much are you making now? I wanted to, like, I was really, you would think you would be happy about it.
Right.
Definitely happy they resolved it, but that's a big pay gap.
Right.
Right.
A
big pay gap.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened from there? Where'd you go next?
Yeah. So I came back to Chicago, worked with a consultant group for a little while, but the goal was to get to New York. At the time I was I was 30, and New York had always been a city I wanted to be in and live in. So the goal was always to get to New York. But before I got to New York, when I moved back home, I was with this consultant group downtown making $130K, which was really good money for Chicago.
Yeah.
But that is when my FI journey started. I was 30 and I had a goal of getting a house. And I didn't have any savings, like none.
So we're making 130, no savings.
No savings. Like,
okay, that's a typical. I hear that a lot from a lot of like first generation engineers.
It's crazy. You're just so used to, you know, being young and going out and shopping and paying off these student loans. And I mean, that's a significant amount of student loans still. I hadn't made quite a dent in it. I think at that time it was probably at like 65K. It was still significant. So I was working on paying them student loans, but I didn't know about FI. I didn't know about savings and how much to put in my 401K. I didn't know. All I knew is I wanted an asset. I wanted a house. So I had to figure out how to go about it, how much I needed to save, financing. I had to learn all of that on the fly by myself. So what I figured out was, okay, at my salary, I can afford this much house. Okay, my down payment would have to be this much because I'm going to go the FHA route, right? So it's 3.5% down on 250 or 300K. All right, I need to save up 12K, 0 to 12K. Okay, how am I going to do this? Because my deadline was in like 3 or 4 months. I don't know who does this. It's insane.
I mean, I had a similar deadline, so I understand. And I actually have a video where, I was pregnant and I learned 3 months out that I didn't have paid maternity leave, like 4 months before I was supposed to like give birth. And I worked at a tech company, so I thought I had paid maternity leave. So I needed to save at least $12,000 to have a paid maternity leave where I didn't like go broke. So
yeah, okay. Last year, crunch time, right? Okay. Crunch time. So 0 to 12K. My journey from 0 to 12K was this. I was making a high salary, so that definitely helped, right? So I just made the minimum on my student loans and just saved as much as I could. But even with that savings, I wasn't gonna hit 12K. So I'm like, all right, I gotta hustle and make another roughly $1,000, $2,000 over these next 3 months. And the 3 months was summertime shy.
So you had to rein it in and focus. Tell everybody about summertime shy.
Yeah, those of you that are not from Chicago or don't know the Chicago area, summertime is the best time to be in Chicago. It's warm, all the festivals are out, everybody is popping out, and I'm young, and I'm just like,
there's like 4 events happening for just Black people or anybody every day in Chicago in Summertime Shot. It's October right now. No, it's September. There's still like 7 events going on during a pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was rough. So yes, so I had to cancel my summer, and what I did was I registered for Uber and Lyft because I had a car that I think it was paid. No, it wasn't quite paid off at the time, but I had a 2013 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid, so it was really great on gas. So it was perfect car to do for Uber and Lyft. So I did Uber and Lyft. Originally, I tried to see which one made more money, and then I focused on Lyft because it made more money. So what I would do is I would get up 5, 6 a.m., drive the rush hour, north side, downtown Chicago, make the most money I could. It was roughly about $50 in the morning. Then I'll come back home or go to the office and work. Then around 4:30, 5 o'clock, I'd hit the streets again, hop in my car for Uber and Lyft, and drive until 7, 8, sometimes 9 at night. So I did that every single, like Monday through Friday, every single day. And then the entire weekends, I would spend maybe 8 or 10 hours on the weekends driving, right? So that's Uber and Lyft were the 2 side hustles I did. And I did that for 3 months. It was really tiring, did it for 3 months. Then I even took it a step further and became an Airbnb host because I had a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, lived by myself. I was paying like $1,200 in, what was it, Bridgeport in Chicago. So I Airbnb'd the 2nd bedroom that I wasn't even using. And I wasn't thinking, it was nothing fancy. It was a black leather futon sofa that I just put some sheets and a blanket on and some towels and put like a TV on top of one of those big Tupperware bins and just put like cloth over it. That was like the TV stand. It was nothing special. I think it was like a $60 or $70 a night room, but it was booked because it was the summertime and tourists were there, and I was blocks away from the White Sox stadium and the Red Line. So location was everything, and it was booked like every single weekend, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is not a fancy place at all. So all that extra income, I literally, like the week before, got right to like 12 grand, like a little under 12 grand to afford my house. And it was a 2-apartment Greystone. So it was 4 bedrooms, 1 bathroom at the top, 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom at the bottom, and a completely unfinished basement. $250.
Wow. And where was that?
So that was in Washington Park.
Okay. Wow. That's good. And that's a cool story. And it's cool that you humbled yourself to do that as an engineer, right? A lot of people are like, I'm an engineer. I make 6 figures. I ain't doing this. I just have to find somewhere else. But can you talk about and give me, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to edit this. My computer's about to die. I gotta
it's all good. Okay.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about how you like, what made you think, let me go Uber and Lyft, and like putting your pride aside, putting like socializing aside, how did that feel? How were you able to do that?
Yeah. I think it was just, at the time I was reading a lot of articles on Google about side hustles. And this is when Uber and Lyft was getting popular also in the cities too. And I thought it was just such an easy concept to use my car to make money. And I was like, all I got to do is drive people? Like that's easy. I enjoy driving actually. So that's how I got into Uber and Lyft. The concept to me was just a no-brainer. And I had a hybrid car, so I knew I was going to save on gas. So that was fairly easy. The Airbnb idea actually came when I went to Peru as a guest. I used Airbnb for the very first time. And my host, I call her like my host mama. She almost felt like a mama to me. She really took care of me so well. And I thought, I wonder how popular this is in the United States. Because I'm thinking Airbnb is some international thing. I don't know how popular it is back home. So when I go back home, I'm searching these different cities and I'm like, oh, there's Airbnbs everywhere. I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I got the idea from Airbnb. I just had a really great experience as a guest.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that's bringing you in, several $100s a week to add to your savings. So that's really, really cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you're working downtown Chicago, got that, we're able to buy the house. Now you have the house. What do you do with the house? Like what are you using that house for?
Yeah. So originally, well, with the FHA loan, you have to live in the house, right? You can't just do a FHA loan as an investment property. I want to make that very clear to people. So you have to live in the house. So I lived on the first floor and I had my realtor put the second floor, the 4-bedroom, 1-bath on the market. It was on the market for about 3 months and I couldn't get it rented. And I couldn't get it rented because a family does not want to share 1 bathroom. So then we expanded the market range to accept Section 8 tenants. And I was warned by family not to do this. And in hindsight, it did end up being very bad. But I did. I accepted a Section 8 tenant. And mind you, the house was completely renovated top down. So they were very excited about it because most Section 8 apartments aren't in great condition. Even though there's inspections, sometimes they're just not in great condition. So I was able to provide housing for somebody in the neighborhood, which I felt good about morally, and which ended up helping financially with the mortgage, right? So it was bringing in $1,400 a month. And the mortgage was $1,900. So I only had to pay $500 out of pocket. Yeah. So that really helped kind of house hack that down a bit.
Right. No, that's awesome. Okay. Section 8, you said that ended up not going well. So after the Section 8 ended, like, what did you do then?
Yeah. So tenant broke the lease about a month before. And unfortunately, her and her children caused $5,000 in damage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I had to get stuff repainted, patch holes in walls, replace carpet and stuff like that because they had a little dog too that they didn't tell me about. So, but yeah, that sucked. It didn't eat away all my profit, but a $5,000 deficit does suck.
Yeah.
So after that, that's when I decided to do Airbnb. And I had such a bigger space for it. So what I did is I took the tenant unit. Me and my husband moved to the upstairs apartment because we figured people don't want to carry suitcases up flights of stairs. So I Airbnb the first floor apartment, bought a little bit of furniture, but the look wasn't exactly what I wanted. So I brought in an interior designer about 6 months into me Airbnb-ing to really deck out the space and brand it with a theme to make it stand out. And that year, because of that interior design change, I think that year netted gross $32,000 for that year. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is good. Yeah. I mean, that's a good side hustle with not a lot of work because you live there. So
yeah.
Okay. $30,000 while you're sleeping and while everybody else is sleeping. Okay. So that's awesome. Yeah. All right. So you are no longer in Chicago. So what happened after that? Brought in $30,000. How much were you making at your job at that time again?
Let's see. So in Chicago, one 140, 145.
Okay.
That's when I moved to HPE.
Okay.
So yeah, so what happened most recently, how I ended up back in New York, was I sold the house because to manage it remotely with Airbnb, 2 units and cleaning. Cleaning was the hardest thing because I keep my Airbnbs very, very clean, and I like to do an inspection after cleaners come, and I couldn't do that remotely. I didn't have anybody that I trusted to do that. So I went back and forth about it. It's a really classic house, but I looked at the market to see what it could go for. And I worked with my realtor and one of my trusted mortgage brokers, what it could kind of go for. And they were like, yeah, it can easily go for over 300,000. And I was like, I bought it for 250. Let's put it on the market and see what happens. And in my zip code, multifamilies were going very quickly. Like they didn't stay on the market more than a month. So we put it on the market. After 3 rounds of offers, my goodness, it sold for 315. It sold for 315. So I netted
$30,000 while you were living there, and then netted over 50 selling it.
Yeah. So let's see. It grossed 65K, and that's in 3 years. It appreciated 65K in 3 years. Which is insane appreciation.
Right.
And then I netted 50K after paying, realtor and stuff like that. So I used about half of that 50K to pay off 95% of my student loans. Used another 10K to pay off all my credit card debt. So I just knocked that out. Going in 2020, it felt so good to not have that burden of all that debt on you.
You know what I love about that too? Because there are not a lot, but there's some financial or personal finance gurus who would say, don't buy a house until you have paid off all your debt free and clear, or until you're free of all your student loans. But you were able to purchase a house and use that as an asset to pay off your student loans. Because how much longer would it have taken you if you didn't have that asset? That asset brought you, close to $70,000, So, and that was the amount of your loans so it gave you a place to live and allowed you to pay off your student loans without doing it was work, obviously, but it wasn't like a whole lot of extra work. You weren't in these streets, delivering Uber in anymore. So you were able to use that as an asset. And I just love how you use that Uber and Lyft, and then you got an asset that gave you money and use that asset to pay off your loans, instead of saying oh, I'm going to Uber and Lyft for the next 5 years until I paid off all my debt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what made you even think like that?
I think around the time I was looking at the Bigger Pockets groups and reading stuff online about house hacking. I was like, what is house hacking? And then when I found out you can buy a multifamily with the FHA loan, I was like, oh, that's the move.
Right.
Why don't more people do this? Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So now you are in, New York. Tell us about your story there, your journey there. How'd you get there? And are you finished with your student loans, or what's the next?
Yeah. So now I only have $5,000 left on my student loans. And I'm fortunate that the last year and a half, my company has a student loan benefit where they pay a little bit. Well, it's not a little bit. It's $291 a month toward my student loans. So that covers more than my minimum payment. So I've been taking advantage of that. And I haven't been paying it because it's paid more than the minimum. So I've taken that money and put it into savings. In 2020, I've been all about savings because we don't know what job security is
like. Right. What's going on? No, that's awesome. That's really awesome. So what's your next goal? So you're renting in Harlem. You're where you want to be. I mean, your company is paying off the rest of your student loans. So do you have credit card debt, like anything like that, or not really?
Yeah, so we have a little bit of credit card debt. So my husband bought his first car that he's ever owned in life, like brand new. And we're a Hyundai family, okay? So Hyundai's not a hybrid. But what I've taught him to do was he got a auto loan, right? And it was quite significant. And mind you, he immigrated to this country, so his credit's very new, right? So the interest on his auto loan was kind of high. It was like 12%, even though he had a 730 credit score. He just didn't have a lot of credit. So when he got the auto loan, it was 12%. After about 2 months, I started to show him how much he was paying in just in interest that was just flying out the window. And it was roughly like $200 or $300 a month. And he got pissed. And I was like, but let me help you. This is what people can do. If they have a credit card that they have a lot of credit on that they can use, and you have a promo 0% interest rate, which we did with Chase, you take a chunk of that loan, transfer it to your 0% interest for 12 months or whatever you have to help pay off that loan more quickly. So that's what we've done. So that's where our credit debt is coming from. We've got what, $7,300 in credit card debt, just from that. But we've saved thousands in interest on that car, let me tell you. My goodness.
Right. Yeah. Okay, awesome. That's smart. So you're saying you're getting all this knowledge from like podcasts and reading and things like this. Like these are some really, really smart moves you're making. So that's awesome. Okay. I mean, I think you laid it out. A lot of people in the group asked, how do I break in tech? How can I break into tech? I don't want to get another degree. How can I use this as a way to financial independence? And I think you laid out several ways: side hustles, buying a home, technically flipping a home, Airbnb, using your home as an asset, using everything as an asset. Like, do you have anything else to share with the group? Like, what's next? Are you going to start a business? Are you going to buy another house? Like, what? Because I know you got something else going on. Like,
I'm always working on something. I am. So I did start a tech and social media management company called Arica Smith about 2 years ago. So that's one of my side hustles for now that I'm still building. So let's see here. What's in the works for the future is investing. 2020 was the year that I became like an investor for real, for real. So I'm a newbie investor, still learning a bunch of stuff. But who I follow and love is the YouTube channel Our Rich Journey. It's this Black couple from the Bay Area that reached financial independence at 39 years old. So I've been learning a lot of stuff from them on what to invest in and with index funds and Roth IRAs and what to max out and what order, because it's really complex stuff. So investing is what I've started this year. This year I opened up a Roth IRA. This year I opened up a brokerage with Vanguard and Fidelity. And this is the year that I've actually put money into the stock market. I try to close my eyes, but
I know it's been hard the last few days. I don't know, the last few weeks have been a little scary, but
they have been. I definitely looked at that, and I'm like,
I'm trying not to take it out, but I'm like, yeah. But the last few months were great, but the last few weeks, I'm like, okay, I just had to stop looking at it. It's almost like the pandemic numbers. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna look at it. Like, I just get.
That's what it is. It's so hard to not look at it. But I invested $10K into a tech neutral fund with Fidelity. I think it's FSCSX. And I told myself, I'm going to be on a year journey. I will not touch this money. We're going to see how much this grows by, because it's got an excellent double-digit rate of return. So I just committed, no matter what, it's going to stay in there. And I only suggest people to do that if they have a healthy emergency fund. Yeah. Like I have an emergency fund. So this was not exactly play money, but money that I won't tear my hair out if I lose some of it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Awesome. I mean, to me, that like your story is so amazing, so impressive. And like I look up to you and your story, and you should be on more podcasts. Oh my goodness. Like, like I will get you to people. Like, that's so awesome. Like, more people need to hear this story, and more people need to know that this is possible. And like, you've made huge progress. Like, I mean, you could be debt free right now, but you're strategically using your debt to make you money or for your good. So you're always looking to for ways to produce an asset to make more money. So I love it. I love it. It's awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Sure. There's so many ways to fire or even just to make extra income. And people just really need to decide what works for them and their personality.
Right.
Because a lot of people want to get into real estate. I've shared my story before about selling my home and netting 50K, and people are like, oh, how do I get into real estate and all this and all that? But then some of them think back and realize, I kind of don't want to be a landlord and have to evict people and drag somebody out by their wig. Like, I don't think I want to do that. So then maybe you should switch to like real estate or stock market investing. Or maybe you're just tired of living paycheck to paycheck. So maybe you want to do a career change into something that gets you a lot more money. Right. People just really need to focus on the different methods there are to creating wealth and what works for their personality. Because I think people see so many different things with HGTV and all this and all that, and they feel like they can do it. But some things work for some people and not others. So right. you gotta pick your lane that works right. for you.
No, that makes absolute sense. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's selling a product. Like, personal finance is personal. It doesn't have to look the same for everybody. Mm-hmm. And just like you didn't wait till you're completely out of debt to buy a house, like you would have been waiting forever, but that house was able to make you some money. Your car was able to make your money. Your car still makes you money, right? So I think that's really, really awesome. Really, really amazing. So with your career, what do you think's next? What do you think's the next step there?
I've always wanted to be a C-suite level executive in tech. Like, that's my dream, my goal. Okay. We'll see where that lands. Because being in tech 10 years, I kind of feel like Jordan when he was with the Bulls for like 10, 12 years, burnt out. Like, it's when something is your passion, but you've worked at it for so long and you see all the sides, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not as attractive anymore. Gotcha. And there's a really good documentary on Netflix right now. I don't remember what it's called, but it talks about how much control tech companies have over you, over me, over anybody watching this video. People don't understand how much social media manipulates us and our behavior. And these tech companies know this. Know how they're changing society on a mass scale. So there's a huge ethical concern with tech companies. So of course, that's the dark side of tech, right? All this, they know, and they're listening to your conversations. You just happen to be talking about diapers, and then you swipe, and the next thing you see is a Huggies ad. That's not by accident. That's literally by design. And they're trying to get you to buy stuff. So, I don't know. I think I want to stay in tech until I reach FI, and I'm at a place where, for me, tech is a place where I'm saying, F you, pay me. And once I get my FI number, I'm out. I'm done. I'm due.
What's your FI number?
It's changing. But right now it's about 582,000.
Okay. When are you projected to hit that?
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I don't want to work forever. I'm trying to retire at 45.
Okay. Yeah. I
want to be done.
That's a good number. That's a good age. I mean, 45, still young, still got time. I have a similar age goal. I'm probably not anywhere near. Well, I don't have a mortgage or anything. So, but yeah, I understand. So, okay, awesome. Well, anything else you want to share? I like, I'm just so full from all of that you've shared. What about, you said you were reading some books and listening to some podcasts that really help you on this journey. Like, what are you reading right now? And what did you read at the beginning?
Yeah. One book that has completely changed my FI journey it literally came out last year. And I love the way it's written because she's cursing in the book. She's giving you the real. I'm like, oh, this is my girl, Christy. Yes. So the book is called Quit Like a Millionaire. And it's by Christy Shen and Bryce Young. Let me put it here. Oh, hold on. Let me go back to there we go. Is it showing? Oh, it keeps doing that.
I typed it in the chat, so people should be able to see.
There we go. It's here. Let me see if it'll autofocus. Quit Like a Millionaire. It's this one all the way over here. But yeah, Quit Like a Millionaire. It gives you strategic and actionable steps for how to do FI. If you know nothing about finance, you don't know what a Roth IRA is, how to do a conversion, what to invest in, the allocation. Like, if you know none of that, that's a really good book to start with.
Okay. Awesome.
That's a really good one. Another one that this is more so for mindfulness and trying to find your journey. One is called Ikigai. Ikigai is a Japanese word. Here, let me oops, here it goes. Ikigai. It's this book right here. Why won't you autofocus? Ikigai. So what it loosely translates to is like your reason for living, for opening your eyes and waking up and getting out of bed. What is your reason for living and being? So I've been reading it lately, especially for self-care during this time, because I think all of us right now are kind of just trying to survive and exist in this world and just trying to make it to the next day. And we might not know where we want to go in our lives or in our careers or even with ourselves or our family. So it kind of helps kind of ground you and helps you focus on what makes you happy, to enjoy life's journey, and how to keep healthy and mindful. From literally centurions. They literally did interviews with a bunch of centurions in Okinawa. Apparently it's the island that has the most centurions in the world. So clearly they know what they're talking about. To live a long, happy, healthy life.
Okay. Awesome. I love book suggestions. Any podcasts or YouTube stations you follow?
I'm not into podcasts too much. I'm a really visual person. I'm trying to think of any other one that I like to watch every day, like it's the news. Minority Mindset. It's Jaspreet Singh that has it. Minority Mindset. I really like that. It has a lot of beginner stuff about finance, but it relates it to current events and what's going on in the world. So that's a really good one too.
Okay. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate, like, you dropped some gems, and you're going to give a lot of people a lot of value. Like, girl, your next thing could be a digital course on how to get into whatever you just talked about. So, but it's really good. Thank you so much. Any final words before we end?
No, thank you for having me. And I just really, one of my passions is really getting more women and women of color into tech. I want to see more people that look like me or even look different from me. It can be intimidating because when you see these tech talks, you see like a white guy in a polo shirt with glasses and a little pot belly. Like, that's what you think of as the IT guy. And I'm an IT girl right here. Right. Definitely don't look like that. Like, it's so diverse. So please don't be put off with what you think IT looks like, because it can look exactly like you. It's literally just skills, learning skills. Anybody can do this.
Yep. Absolutely. I love it. I love it so much. All right. Thank you. We'll have to hear from you again, see what you're up to maybe in a year from now. All right. All right. Have a good one. And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks so much, Misha. Take care.
Thanks.